Hey folks, and welcome to the Pipnotic Symposium for the 19th of August 2020. Today we're going to run over a trade that one of the members had. It was a losing trade. We're going to go and we're going to do a bit of a biopsy and look at the trade after the fact and see if we can find any clues that may have given us perhaps some warning signs. And it's also, I think, important to iterate that there are going to be losing trades, a boatload of losing trades, and that's fine. So this doesn't mean that you've done anything wrong. It just means that this was one of the ones that lost. That said, let's see if we can have a look at how we could have taken this trade differently. One of the main things is trading on the smaller time frames is that if you're looking at the smaller time frames, there's not a lot of insight as to what the major flows are doing. So if you see this, you can see that price left this area here and we went high, we went above these highs here, and why, yes, that is the fact, and the slingshot was actually pulled back to here. This was a huge move lower. Okay, so we want to know why price moved so quickly lower. And so what I like to do is I always like to start my analysis on the weekly chart. So I'm going to go to the weekly chart and I'm going to have a look and see what's going on. And you can see here that price entered the lower edge of this weekly supply. Okay, and when you see this, this is a really good indication that price is likely going to move away from that. And so if you're taking entries on the smaller time frames with smaller stops, they're exposed and they're vulnerable to the shift of flows at a weekly area of supply. And so knowing this, I think maybe you potentially wouldn't have taken this trade. The trade did reach your entry and it did have a bit of a bounce, so there was like a small trade that could have a very, very small profitable trade, but price really moved down very, very quickly, and it is simply because it started to feed into this area of bearish liquidity and the flows began to shift. And so this, what you can see on the 15-minute chart, is just a very early shift in flows where price goes higher, then we have very sharp rejections lower. And also if you look at this, look how much time price has to use to move higher in contrast to how many periods it has to use to move price lower. So you can see how price is kind of struggling to go up a little bit. It's easier to go down. It was moving higher, easier to go down. Struggling to go higher, easy to go down. Here we had a really nice strong push higher. And then price started to break down. A really strong push higher, which kind of challenging the highs. Then price started to break down. And so when you see stuff like this, like price going higher, retreating, higher, retreating, higher, retreating, this is just a clue that you might want to look at what price is actually reacting on historically to the left. So on this trade here, I think that if you would have been mindful of the fact that we were actually testing an area of weekly supply, then maybe this trade would have been left alone. If we have a look on the daily, you can see it also quite clearly where we actually had the beginning of the sell zone, which is right here. So the beginning of the sell zone is actually the pullback right here prior to this release, and that is roughly where the second dotted line, this being the first, this being the second, this is the third. Price went into the second dotted line and moved up to the third dotted line, and it moved away from here. So this is just a very keen indication that price is advertising high prices at an area of supply at the beginning of the sell zone. So we can expect price to eventually move away from here. Good, well, I'm going to leave it at that. If you have any questions, please add them in the video or post them in the forum. Thanks for watching.